So today we're going to talk about classroom assessment, but not as that final scary grade. Instead, we're going to look at it as the start of a conversation. We'll explore how to turn a simple score into one of the most powerful tools you have to really help your students grow. Let's dive in. Seriously, think about that for a second. What does an A really mean? Does it mean total mastery of the subject, or that the student is just a fantastic test taker? Maybe it just means they did better than the person sitting next to them. That one question, it gets right to the heart of a massive challenge in education. You see, the way we've typically thought about grades, well, it often leaves out the most important part of the story. A grade can feel so final, right? Like a judgment. But what if it were a starting point instead? You know, the source material for this explainer argues that when a grade only tells us what a student knows, it kind of leaves everyone in the dark. The student doesn't know what to do next, and the teacher doesn't know how to help. Okay, so this brings us to a really powerful shift in thinking. Let's call it the feedback loop secret. It's all about looking at assessment in a completely new way. This right here, this is the whole idea in a nutshell. Assessment isn't just a one-way street for students. It's for teachers too. It tells students how they can improve their understanding, and it gives you, the teacher, critical info on how to tweak your instruction to get them there. It's a continuous circle. So here's the bottom line. The goal is to get to a place where a score isn't some big mystery. A student should be able to look at their results and know exactly what they need to work on. And for you, that very same assessment becomes a roadmap for what to do next in class. All right, so how do we actually do this? Well, the source gives us a fantastic set of practical tools. Think of this next part as your very own assessment toolkit, filled with strategies you can start using right away. So, the material lays out 7 different formal strategies. You've got familiar ones like common assessments, of course, but there are also more dynamic options like student demonstrations or even analyzing response patterns to get deeper insights. You don't have to use all of them, but just knowing what's in the toolbox, that's powerful. Let's break down 2 of the big ones. On one side, you have selected response items, like multiple choice. These are awesome for checking if a student can recognize the right information. But on the other side, you've got constructed response, like short answers. These push students a little harder because they have to generate the answer all on their own. Which one you pick really just depends on the skill you're trying to measure. Now, this question is fantastic. It shows you the power of something like a student demonstration. Instead of just slapping a grade on it, asking this question completely changes the game. It turns the assessment from just a performance into a real moment of reflection. The focus shifts to the process of learning, not just the final product. And building on that idea, one of the most empowering tools in the whole kit is letting students generate their own assessments. This 4-step process walks you right through it. The students themselves identify the goal, define what success looks like, and then propose how they're going to prove they get it. This is an absolute game changer for giving students a sense of ownership. Okay, so we've got the tools. Now what? How do we use them? Well, and just as important, how do we score them in a way that's consistent and fair? Here is a seriously clever idea for making sure your grading is fair: a scoring flowchart. Instead of trying to subjectively assign points, you just follow a simple series of yes or no questions about the work. This gets you to a consistent score every single time. It makes your grading uniform, easier to explain, and way more transparent for students and parents. And remember, not all assessment has to be some big formal test. I mean, you're observing your students all day long. A simple chart like this one lets you capture those quick, informal moments, like noticing a student is mixing up the order of operations, and turn them into actual, useful data. It closes the gap between those little classroom moments and real, actionable info you can use. All right, and for this last part, let's turn the lens around, because using these tools isn't just about evaluating our students, it's about leveling up our own practice as teachers. This self-rating scale is such a great tool for professional growth. Just take a second and see where you might be on this chart right now. Maybe you're at developing, where you use assessments, but you don't really monitor their effect yet. The goal is to move up to applying, where you use that data to actually change your teaching, and maybe even all the way to innovating, where you're creating brand new strategies for your students. It gives you a really clear path forward. So as we wrap this up, the real question isn't if you should change your assessment practices, but how you'll start. Will you try out a student interview, or maybe sketch out a simple observation chart? Maybe you'll just ask that one powerful question after a student's demonstration. The goal here isn't to be perfect overnight. It's just about taking that next small step.